They come packaged as common products like bath salts, incense, or even window cleaner, but they aren't used like everyday products. They are the latest designer drugs that your kids may be using. But what sets these drugs apart from pot, acid, cocaine, heroin, and meth is that anyone can walk into a store, put down the money, and leave with a perfectly legal drug. And at this point, in Tennessee, there's not even an age limit for purchasing these drugs. And unfortunately, there's more.
As far as the safety of the patient who's ingested the substance, the safety of the staff members, and the safety of other patients who might be in proximity, I think this is one of the most dangerous things I've ever seen.
I think this is some of the most horrific stuff that's come around in a long time. I have a dear friend of mine who's in law enforcement whose son is 20 years old. And he told me his son, well, in fact, his son's in pharmacy school. He said, "Dad, my classmates are smoking this stuff and they're taking this stuff." And he said, "Why?" And they said, "Well, because it's legal." And it's so bad that this guy, who's in law enforcement, said, "Son, if you have to smoke something and it's a choice between these bath salts or whatever you call them and marijuana, smoke the marijuana, even though it's illegal and the other stuff isn't, because this stuff will cook you from the inside out."
Law enforcement and medical personnel and prosecutors have actually seen the effects of this drug on individuals that take it. They see the immense cost it's taken on these people. The effects of synthetic drugs are not like other drugs. It's not like marijuana or other controlled substances. It's some of the behavior is some of the worst we've ever seen exhibited. I have stories of medical personnel in the ERs being unable to control these people, not able to treat them. I've had accounts of the behavior when officers arrest folks. I've read other accounts from other jurisdictions of just how one taking of a synthetic drug can render somebody permanently psychotic.
There seems to be no control when people get on bath salts versus some type of control, be it a depressed state or an agitated state from different narcotics. Bath salts, it's kind of uncontrollable. 1 minute they'll be crying and depressed and feeling upset, and the next minute they want to fight 2 or 3 of us, and we have to restrain them and take them to the hospital. And you'll get them halfway to the hospital and they'll back down and say, "Hey man, what's going on? I'm sorry." And then 5 minutes later they're agitated again, and we're having to use physical force to try to get them some help. It's crazy.
So how is it possible that we're having all these problems with a legally sold product? It's possible through some very clever marketing and labeling. This is the reason why they're known as bath salts. By calling the chemical mixture a common product and clearly labeling it as not fit for human consumption, the manufacturers have found a loophole.
The people that sell it think that they're covering themselves by putting it's not for human consumption. But truly, honestly, they can't, with a straight face, say, all these kids and all these young people are coming in here to buy this, quote, potpourri, incense, window cleaner, bath salts for the purposes of those items legitimately have. What's been sold as bath salts in some of these head shops cost $60 for a package, where you could buy probably 10 or 15 packets of legitimate bath salts for the same amount of money. And if you bought bath salts out of Walmart for the same weight that you do at these head shops, it would cost you about $25,000 to buy a bottle of a big container of bath salts.
And because it is disguised as another product, there are no instructions for use. Since every version of the product has a different chemical makeup, the proper dosage can change drastically, but sometimes even if you get the dosage right.
The problem is, greater than 60% of patients also experience some undesirable side effects, such as GI problems, nausea and vomiting, seizures have been reported, some mental health phenomena like hallucinations and delusions even. And those are more the patients that we are seeing. Taken at what I call normal levels, still 6 in 10 patients will experience some adverse side effects, which oftentimes causes them to seek treatment at the emergency department.
And because this is a new drug, the treatment that emergency personnel and hospital workers can administer is limited.
We have drugs that we can give somebody that's overdosed on narcotics or opiate-based drugs that will basically blocks the receptors so that they no longer have the effect of that illegal substance. We don't have an antidote per se for the bath salts. We just have to treat their symptoms and take them to the hospital and let the physicians there do what they can with those people.
We have reversal agents for a couple of different classifications of drug that if patients have taken an overdose, we can reverse those, and those two being opiates like morphine, Vicodin, Lortab. We have an antidote for that, and we have an antidote for the benzodiazepines such as Ativan and Valium and those types of drugs. But for this new synthetic amphetamine-like substance we're seeing, we don't have any antidote for that. Many times what I have seen is the patients who have taken a low dose or even a normal dose, they may be able to converse with you and communicate with you. Many times, unfortunately, the patients who have taken an excess amount, they may be completely incoherent. Because we're starting to see it more, we're starting to recognize it, but many times these patients are completely unable to communicate with us at all. These patients are experiencing paranoia. They many times experience hallucinations. They don't know what reality they're in, and they're really a danger to themselves and others because of that.
One taking of it, again, can render somebody permanently psychotic. It can lead to death, and I know that. I've looked at least 3 autopsies in the last 6 months with people that have died as a result of taking these drugs.
And because these drugs are readily available and legal, they're bringing in a new kind of drug user.
It's creating a group of, I think, a new group of people who are going to go down the wrong side of the road. I don't mean to say it this way, but there are some folks who, frankly, are destined to be just on the other side of the law. Pretty small group. There's another group of people that, frankly, I think they're like the majority of us around there, and who in high school went and, snuck a beer or did something like that. That they're not destined on the wrong side of the tracks. They're going to try a little bit and go the right way. But suddenly they start taking this stuff, and instead of that track being a good one, they're gone. And we're going to take a whole nother group of people out of society.
When I worked narcotics for a couple years, and I'm seeing a different, this group, I will say, that's using this type of, that's using the bath salts, is really widespread. It doesn't really, it's not the whites or the black or the Asian or it's not like that. It's not a racially motivated or economically motivated narcotic or drug or whatever you want to call it, synthetic, drug. It is widespread. It is wealthy people, poor people, color doesn't matter, men, women, it doesn't matter.
A lot of young people that maybe don't have a track record of heavy drug use or extensive drug use are being drawn into that. And again, I don't have any statistics on that. I'm just speaking from what I've observed and what local law enforcement tell me, and also school officials and juvenile judges have told me, that I think that it's trying to bring in a new group. Again, it's presented as alluring, exciting, synthetic, modern, hip, edgy. And so I think maybe some people that maybe experimented with marijuana or maybe some alcohol will think, well, you know what? I don't risk getting charged with consumption under age. I don't risk getting charged with possession. I can take this. It's legal. There's no consequences legally to me. I can't be screened. They can't find it in my system. So I think that we probably have two groups that are attracted to this: the traditional drug-using community culture, but also people that may be drawn into it because they falsely believe it's safe.
It's not safe. Anything that's going to alter your awareness, unless it's given to you by a physician or a physician's orders, is not going to be safe for you to use. A lot of arguments is, well, alcohol alters your awareness, but it's legal. Well, there's been a long history of studies on how that's affected. These bath salts have only been around for a couple of years. There's no history with it. There's no long-term studies on how it's actually going to affect what how your body uses it and processes it.
Several states have outlawed the drug, including Virginia. So why hasn't Tennessee?
They took a different track than we did. We passed a law about 3 years ago, and if you read the law, frankly, I couldn't pronounce all the words in the law because we were very specific about compounds that were in there. And what the folks who are dealing this stuff, figured out very quickly is, well, we change one little compound, one molecule, and it's now a legal substance. Virginia didn't do that. They took a different tack. They took it that has a hallucinogenic effect. And they put one other thing in there, is they put a dollar value in it. When you hear about bath salts, when I first heard bath salts, I was thinking, frankly, what you go to Walmart and you got to think of bath salts that are $5, $6. These are, whether it's bath salts, whether they call it window cleaner, and this is $20. So, and then this is my window cleaner, and it was $3. So, obviously, the intended purpose of this is not to clean windows. So, and they were able to put that into the law, where obviously this is not intended to clean anyone's windows. So, I think they were very savvy on that. I think, and over the past couple of months, we have worked with the state attorney generals, Council of District Attorney General, Barry Staubus here in Sullivan County, crafting a piece of legislation that will hold up. So hold up constitutionally, it'll put teeth in it, and frankly, get this stuff off the streets.
I see the problem. I see that we don't have adequate tools to get rid of this problem in the community, to address it. I'm asking the legislature to give me the tools so that law enforcement officers can conduct investigations. We can prosecute people and convict people that sell these dangerous drugs.
If you're 14 years old, you can go buy this stuff. It's legal. So what a sales hook. And I'm in marketing. It's perfectly legal to do this. Sure, I'll give it a try. If it's legal, it must not be bad, would be what most people would think. Wrong. That's why everybody else those folks who do drugs, the illegal drugs, wouldn't touch this stuff.
If you look at some of these websites, there are organizations that are for the legalization of marijuana and other drugs. Even those groups are opposed to legalization of synthetic drugs. There's people out there who advocate the legalization of marijuana and even other stronger drugs, who take them, and they have taken these drugs and they have come out and voiced their opposition to these drugs.
And there is that issue of profits. Some estimates put the daily earnings from just one small shop ranging from $2,500 to as much as $10,000 a day. In fact, it was so lucrative that the businesses that were selling the drugs in Virginia moved to the Tennessee side of the street.
How fast can I get back to Nashville and do this? Because frankly, my general philosophy is the more we're in session, the more lawmakers are making laws, the worse it is for most people, except in this case. We can't get there fast enough because right now, cities, counties are powerless.
It just seems like it's growing at such a rapid pace, and I think a lot of that is because of our enforcement factor of, if you've got this thing, what can the police do? Nothing. We're having to be reactive to the problem. After they get intoxicated on it and they go off the deep end, we'll say, and they take off their clothes and start mashing their head in the wall, then we get called so we can go react to that incident. Prior to that, what can we do? Well, we can't stop people from selling it. We can't stop people from using it up to a certain point until they get, over the edge. Do you follow what I'm saying? So that makes it harder for us to deal with.
The reason they're legal right now is not because they're safe. They're legal because we don't have an effective law in place. We want to change the law from defining synthetic drugs by their specific chemical composition, and define the drugs by their effects on the system and how they're sold and all the surrounding circumstances on the sale of these drugs. So by passing this law, we can at least put to the public and to children, young people, they're not safe because they're no longer legal. We know that it's going to take more than that. It's going to take information, it's going to take education, and it's not just by prosecutors and law enforcement. It's going to have to be teachers, but most importantly, it's going to be people in the community, parents, grandparents, people that deal with children, that have relationship with children. They've got to be able to speak to them about it, be knowledgeable about that, and they've got to impress upon them that if someone comes and tells you they're safe, it's okay, they're synthetic, that it's edgy, it's cool, that they've got to be able to say, no, it's not, and here's how I know, and I can show you. There's plenty of proof out there otherwise. So it's going to take more than a law to do that. But a law is one place where we start. If we don't get a law in place to prosecute the sellers, we're really going to be ill-equipped to fight the battle against synthetic drugs.